Everyone, and welcome to the second Adobe Apps for Education session for today. Today we're looking at InDesign, and our afternoon session will be focusing on easy fillable forms with InDesign. So as in this morning, we have Lukas Engqvist from Sweden will be presenting and leading us through this session. And Lukas is, of course, our InDesign guru and has worked extensively in industry to develop these skills. He's now a teacher in vocational education, so passes on to his apprentices, if you like, for them to go forth and continue to do what he used to do. So, Lukas, I know you, we might just change over. Oh yeah, before I go, this session will be recorded and placed in this link that I've just put in the form. If you didn't register, if you registered, you'll get an email with that link for the recording. If you haven't registered, pop back to that link, just bookmark it now so that you can come back to it and give for that to be done. So Lukas, did you want to share your screen with me? Excellent.
Of course I want to share my screen.
And are you there?
That's why
Would you like to talk to me?
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to mute myself and I will speak to you. Oh, if anyone has any questions, your sound is fine. If anybody has any questions, please put them in this top questions pod and Lukas will answer them at the end of the session. Okay, so over to you, Lukas.
Yeah, so people was asking me before, what does this word mean that's on the screen? Broby Grafiska is the name. It means Broby means the town with a bridge in it, and Grafiska means the graphic communication company. And I work teaching students to become graphic designers. But we also have in the graphic design program a very high technical quality. We actually have quite a long program where they teach to do forms. And forms can be simple and they can be complex. We just had done in Sweden our tax papers, and they were quite complex forms. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do the easy forms and the easy fillable forms. And let's see if I can change the slide. There we have it. I have just done like an overview slide to say what we're going to be doing this session. We'll be looking at a quick form using the Interactive for PDF workspace. Now, InDesign has lots of different workspaces, and the standard workspace, we will have a toolbar on the right side, and it would look like the essentials, and we'll have this tool set here. If I change it, oh, let me just reset that one. That's my one. So when you start InDesign, normally, this is what it would look like, and that was from this morning's session, with just pages, layers, links, stroke, color, swatches, and the CC libraries now if you have 2014. Now if we change the workspace and say, oh, I want to work with a book or I want to work with digital publishing, I can choose them from my workspaces. It's also possible to choose them from Window Workspace, and here I will find the different functions because we can use InDesign for so many different things. But we want to look at the one Interactive for PDF, because PDF, portable document format, is the format we use for viewing documents on many different devices and, among other things, filling in forms. So when we choose Interactive for PDF, the tool set that we use changes, and what we get in here are some special functions that we have. You see, normally we have the pages, page transitions, maybe I should zoom in, oh, that's a little bit too much, pages, page transitions, and links and layers. These are basically to do with the page navigation. These are the standard tools with colors, swatches, and gradients, but here we have hyperlinks, bookmarks, buttons, and forms. Yes, that's the real button that we want, but we can also do media, and that's one of the things we'll get into a little bit later. So I'm just going to take this button and forms and expand it so we can see this one and remind us that's what we want today. So let's look at a quick form to start off with. And where am I going to find a form that you all recognize? I will actually go into the print dialog box, because basically anything we do on the computer is a form. If we look at this form, the print dialog box, we can see we have all the elements that we need. And I just want to show you the anatomy of a form so that we get the terms right and we will recognize them in InDesign. There are buttons. This print dialog box has a lot of buttons down here. It has a printer, print setup, and a few things like that. And we can learn a lot about the interface there. And we can make buttons that we can use in the PDF files. They are a very essential form element. We have text fields. In this case, the text field that we have is the range of pages and where we can write which copies we want. So text fields means it's a block where you can use the text cursor and you can write different things. But if you don't write the right things in, you will get an error. So there's some kind of a validation here. There are checkboxes. In this place, print the master pages is a checkbox. I can check it or I can check it off. There's also something called radio buttons. And if we look at that radio button, this is a radio button. It's usually round, and that comes from the time when we used to listen to the radio. We would only listen to one channel at a time. They could be called TV buttons as well. We don't want to see two TV programs at the same time. So either we would print all pages, or we print a range of pages, or we print the current page. So the round buttons are what are called radio buttons, and they mean that I'm choosing one or the other. We have lists and combo boxes, and if we look at this one where it says sequence, this is a list. I can choose all pages, even pages, odd pages, and so on. And this is what is called a combo box, because here I can choose from a list, or I can type something if I choose to type instead. So these are the interface elements we have. Besides that, we also have a signature field. Let's look at that in a new document and see a form. So I'm going to cancel out of that one. This is my first form. And if we look at this, it's still not a form, it's just an InDesign document with some text. And what I've done here is I've just chosen to make a tab, and I underlined it using the underline tool. And that sort of gave me a place to fill in the blank. And if I print this out, somebody could fill it in and give it back to me. But that's not what I want. I want a digital form. And the advantage with a digital form is that I can actually tell people that I don't want this form back if you haven't written your name on it. I don't know if you as teachers ever have come across that people hand in an assignment and forget to write the name. It's just useless. So you want to add a required option for something like a name field. Now I could export this as a PDF and process it in PDF, but nowadays I can actually do most of the work preparing the form in InDesign, which makes it easier for me to use that form. Here I want to add a text field where I can write my name. So I will just grab the ordinary rectangle frame, and it doesn't matter if I grab the rectangle frame or the rectangle tool. It doesn't make any difference for me, but I basically want to draw a shape of a rectangle where I want to fill my text. Okay, that's as simple as it gets. The next stage is to go to the panel which says Buttons and Forms, and it says Type here. There are two ways I can do it. Either I can press here to make it into a button, or I can just click from the pop-up Type, and there it says Button, and that's for all other e-publishing, and if I'm doing a DPS or something like that, I will use this panel for making buttons. But when I'm making forms, there are these PDF-only options. I can make this into a checkbox, a combo box, a list box, a radio button, a signature field, and a text field, and we just covered what those different terms meant. So I take this name and I make it into a text field. And as I make it into a text field, I can give it a name. Now, the name may not seem important if I'm just filling out the form and it will only be a PDF and you will just fill the form and print it out. That's not a problem. But if I want to collect the data so that I can make it into a spreadsheet or a database, then the name is very important. This will be the name that you will get in your database saying this is the field that's filled in. And this field is called name, so let's call it name. It's a little bit abstract here, but if I would call this maybe full name, then you'll understand the name of the box is full name because I want you to write your full name here. If I want to write a hint to tell somebody what am I supposed to write here, and a hint, that's what I get when I go over an icon. You see this little yellow box coming up? It says wrap around the object shape. Aha, that's a hint. I can write a hint. Type your full name. And then in Acrobat, if somebody hovers over this field, they will know that they're supposed to type the full name here. And then I have some other options to say, is this something to be printable, to be read-only, but it's not editable? Is it something that requires more than one line? Well, a name usually is enough to do on one line. Is it required? Yes. Look, I put a little star here because that's what we're used to seeing all the time when we need to fill a form out. I need somebody to type the name, and if they forget to fill the name and try to send me this form, I want them to get the thing that says, you haven't filled in all the information that you need to fill in. It's also possible to mark something as a password, which means it will be like these dots instead of typing the text, so that somebody looking over the shoulder will not see what they have typed. And we only have, unfortunately, one option, and that's the font size. There are other configuratable things in the text field, but I cannot reach them through InDesign as of yet. Maybe in a future version we will be able to set Comic Sans as the font for our filled forms. And actually, that's only half a joke. Sometimes you want to change the font of the text that's filled in so that they know this is what you have filled in, and this is part that is on the standard form. Okay, that was the text field. I can now choose if I'm a teacher or a student. Is that going to be one of those check boxes, or is it going to be one of those radio buttons? That depends on if I consider that you can be both a teacher and a student, or if I want this to be an either-or question. If I want it to be an either-or question, then I want to convert those into radio buttons. But let's look again at the print dialog box. If I press Command P again, I will see the either-or questions. They are the round ones, not the square ones. The square ones means I can choose it or not choose it. Here I can choose several down. But if I look at the radio buttons, I can only choose one of the set. So these should actually be round if I want to choose to be either a teacher or a student. So I will mark these two boxes, and I'll go into Objects, and I will convert to shape, and I can change it to an ellipse. And that makes those into round. And then if I check for my buttons and forms, I can choose that these are now radio buttons. And that's all I have to do. That's how easy it is to make a form. I will click this one and give it a name. And here is also one thing that's special. When I said the radio buttons were part of a set, we think of the name as the question. And down here, it says button value. And the button value, that is the answer to the question. Sorry about the extreme zoom there. So in this case, I would say, what's the question that gives the answer teacher or student? Well, I can select both these, and I will say that the common question for these is, what is your role? Now that's the question, but that would be a very long question if I'm looking at an Excel sheet. So I will just call this role. And then I can choose the first button, which has now the name role. And I will not call it choice, because if somebody clicks the role teacher, I don't want them to in the database that they have answered choice for the question role. But the answer to the question role is teacher. And if I click the other button, the answer to the question role is student. Yeah? So now I've said the question role can be answered with either the answer teacher or student. Now, if I want to say what your hobbies are, I'll change that text there to hobby. Maybe, let's change it to hobbies, plural. And that means that you can answer one or more of these: sports, theater, music, and movies. Just because I like sport doesn't mean I don't like music. So these are supposed to be checkboxes. And I will check them all together. So let's see if I can select all of them. Unselect the text, and now choose from the type that these are checkboxes. And you see they automatically get the checks here. And all of the checkboxes get the button value yes. It means if I've checked the box, the answer to the question will be yes. So what is the question that would give a yes on the first hobby sport? Well, it's probably hobby sport, and then if I check it, it says yes. This one would be hobby theater. Excuse my spelling, I'm not good at spelling, especially not under stress. And then we have hobby music, and then last one, hobby movies. And all these get answered with the answer yes. Now this one here, job, if I want to have sort people into different kind of categories, then I maybe want to have that as a list. And it's exactly the same as making a text field. I'll take a rectangle, I will draw it across here, and I will choose that this is going to be a list box. And from a list of jobs, I can then write job is the question, so that's what I put for name. And down here I can say what list items, what jobs do I want to be able to choose from. And the jobs I can choose from this time is plumber, and I just press a plus for that one. And I can add another job here, painter, sailor, soldier. Now I could of course have added something like other, but that means that people would probably fall outside of these categories, and if I want to force them to answer one of these questions with plumber, painter, sailor, or soldier, then I will just add those to the list. There is also the combo box, and I will make a field for the pet because I don't know what pet you have, but I want everybody who writes cat to write it the same way, and I want everybody who writes dog to write it with the same capitalization. So I will make this into a combo box. And you look there that this one is called combo box. I could have written a description here as a helpline as well, but I'm going to be a bit lazy here, and I'm just going to write the pet names. And we're going to write cat, and add that, and add dog on that one, and then put the plus sign on that, and now I have my two entries for the combo box. And I'm aware that this text is going to be very, very small at 12 points because the other text I have here is at 38 points. So let's just grab all these fields that we have. This one, the text field, the list, and the combo box. And oops, I can't type the font size for all at the same time. I'll have to do that manually. So I'll put that one to 30. And I'll put this one to 30, and I'll put this one to 30. So now I've done my form. I will save it, and the way I will check if it's working is I will export it, and that's File, Export, which has the shortcut Command E. And the export format I will choose is not the one for print, because print does not allow any kind of form items to come along. I want to choose Adobe PDF Interactive. So when I choose this one, I will call it Form 1 and I will save it. I've done this just before, so I had it before, but I'll replace that one. And I have some options here, and it's just saying if I want to open it in full screen mode or embed the thumbnails. And really, they're not very important to make the form work. The form will work quite generously, irrespective of what I fill in here. So I'll just press OK with the default values, and there I have my form. That's done. Even with explaining, it only took 20 minutes. It should be a lot faster to do. But let's go in Acrobat here, and I will look at filling in the form. So if I try to not fill in that one, I'll just go in here and press. You see, I can only press student or teacher. I cannot press both. With my hobbies, I can press one or more. I go down here, and I can choose to be a plumber, or I can choose to be a sailor. And here I can write, whoops, it's not wanting to write. That's strange. Maybe I forgot to enable that I can add an optional one, but there's the cat and the dog. And when I press cat, you see it jumps up. It's a little bit different on the interface from this one. I'm not sure why it didn't actually work as it should do. That's the fun of teaching, isn't it? Anyway, so that was the whole form. There's only something I'm missing here on this form. I have no way to print it out, I have no way to clear the form, and I have no way to go in and submit the form. So let's add 3 buttons. I'll just make 3 rectangles here, and I'm going to be lazy here again. So I'm going to make one, which I'm going to make red, which is for clearing the form. I'm going to make a yellow one for printing the form, and I'm going to make another box here, which I am going to make green, and that's going to be submitting. And I can add the text to it as well if I want to. Let's just put it in here. Submit, print, and clear. And I'm not going to do any design stuff just to save time. These are very, very condensed sessions. But the cleared button, I have it selected. So let's go for my buttons and forms. I will choose to make it into a button. And if I look at the actions I have, here are the PDF only. Clear form, print form, submit form. And then there's also some navigation buttons as well if it's a multi-page form. So let's just take this one here. I will clear form for that one. I will choose the next one, button, and go in here and say print form. And I will take this one and I will choose to make it into button and choose to go to a submit form. And if I look at the submit form, the print form has no options except the description. The clear form has no options in InDesign. In PDF, you can actually choose which fields to clear. In Acrobat, sorry. But the submit button, it needs one more information, and that's where does it send the form once it's submitted. And for those of you that know web code, you would just type mail to in one word, colon, and then the mail address that you want the form to be sent back to. So I will type my mail here. So there's my mail address, and now the form is complete and can be used. Maybe I want to clear it first, so I'll see if they're cleared. No, they're not. Let's look at this one that had the pet. Do I have the option to make it that I am able to write another one? No. And some of these functions that we have are limits in InDesign that are not limits in the PDF file. Let's just save this one here, and we will look at it in Acrobat very, very quickly. So, Command E was the shortcut, and let's just check that Acrobat doesn't have this one open, because then it will have problems having 2 forms with the same name. Back to InDesign and save that one, replace it, and just click OK. and here is my form. I can fill in things, and if I try to submit this one here, I'm getting the allowed, and it's saying I need to be in the web browser. Now this is a little bit different when I'm working in, actually it changed just the last version when it went to Document Cloud that you need to be in the web browser. Before you could actually just submit it straight from InDesign. But I can fill it in. What I normally would do, like if I'm sending something to students, is to go through a workflow. So let me just show the workflow that we would have for submitting a form to a class. I would normally go from the workflow, which I have listed down here. We have looked at the first one where we can do the InDesign, we make it interactive, we export it to an interactive, and we save it, or we print it, or we submit it. And as it's giving me a message now, I must do that in a web browser. Now, what I can do is go into Acrobat and fine-tune the form and add a lot more functionality and make sure that the text field is a number or in a certain format. And then I would use in Acrobat the distribute function, and then I would set up some kind of a server system to collect the forms, and that when I press the distribute function in Acrobat, I will be able to get two files. One is called distributed and one is called responses, and I can mail out the file called distributed, and it will collect the responses for me. Now the time is running very, very quickly. I just wanted to show you some ideas what you can do, the beautiful stuff, not the simple stuff, and why you would want to use these kind of forms rather than Google Forms. If we look at this one, this is using other interactive functions from the PDF. It's still using a list box, but this time I have made a list box which has the names of different continents, and I placed the same list out on a map, and here they're called Continent 1, Continent 2, Continent 3, and Continent 4, and up to 7, and they contain exactly the same list of all the continents. I've also included a piece of film so that you can write something about the film. I have made a second page here that is using images as checkboxes, and also where I'm using pop-up pictures, because one button can actually have an action to show and hide another button. So very, very briefly, I'll go in and look at this one. I've already done this one to PDF. Oh, I have. Let's just take and export this one and save it as Form 2 and replace it, and we'll open this one up. I see I left one file to do on the demo, but I didn't manage to do that one. I'll try to record that one on YouTube and add it to the resource later if I find out if there's any questions. And also, if you do have questions from seeing this one, even if you're seeing it from the recording, please add it as a chat and we can add material to answer the questions as we go along. I try to revisit the posts on the Education Exchange. So here we have the map. I can look at it, and actually if I go into the preview area, I can try to go in and edit this one. Here I have different continents, and I can choose from the list and say this is called Europe, and this is called Africa, right? This one must be Oceania, and this one must be Asia. Well, and I can look through these ones. So this kind of a thing, it could be any kind of geography or biology or whatever, where you want to have the names from a set, you can do with Acrobat, and it might be kind of difficult to do in other ways. But since in PDF that's interactive, we can add other things. I can actually have a film and say, write something about what this film is, or it could be a sound or something else as well. And then I can stop it, and then I can write, oh, this is about, and I can fill in what it's about. And if I go back to the next page with the interactive stuff, here I have my images, and I can just click on them. In this case, both these images have the same name, and so they're checking both of them at the same time. This one had a different name, so it's not checking it. But if I edit the form in Acrobat, I can look more into that one. There's some great help in Acrobat to look at how to do it. So I hope you will dig deeper into this. This was the interactive that I talked about. The one button triggering another button that is invisible. And this time it's doing it with a rollover, and here it's doing like click, and I will click on the image and close it. Now I see the time's up. So let's just go back and see if there are any questions.
Yeah.
How do I quit out of this? Stop screen sharing there.
We have a couple of questions for you. There we go. Are there options other than returning form data by email along the lines of Form Central where there's an online repository?
Yes. Yes, there are, but I cannot do that from within InDesign. I will have to go in and polish my, I'll have to do the final touches in Acrobat. But in Acrobat Pro, I can use the distribute function, and there is Office 365, or I can run, if I have an SMB server, which is available, I can just download the file to an SMB folder, and then it actually collects the data live. And if you have, if you're trying to do a live test, that's almost better than any other option, because then you can actually be compiling the data as it's being collected. So that's how I would do it.
Yeah, and
I'd be happy to put something up on YouTube if there are any more questions. And as I
fantastic.
say, just add,
And
if you add the
Kat
questions
asks,
onto this link once it's up. Yeah. When using the list box, is it possible for these to show random items?
one more question. Yes.
No, actually, they all have the same answer. So I would just say pick one. I would have written pick one as the first option, and then I would have written the other ones. You can get it to sort out alphabetically, but you cannot get it to randomize. So either it's alphabetical. The reason why is that I tested this one before, and I still had the file open, just so that it was hidden, and that's why I have the answers already. So if I close that file and render it again, it would not have the answers by default. What kind of server? Yes, that was an SMB server or an Office 365 server. Okay. But as I said, if anybody's watching the recording and they have some questions,
you so much.
Just add it to the post and we'll fill on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
Lukas, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, everyone. We will draw today to a close. So the recording will be shared just in the link in the box and also through emails if you registered. So we'll send that out probably in about 48 hours. And I will see you all in 2 weeks' time when we work on creating a superhero poster with Photoshop and Sean Glomas. So that should be a fun session. So I will see you all in 2 weeks. And Lukas, thank you so much. Is there anything you wanted to end with?
Well, I just see that Lisa is signed up for the digital publication sessions. That one is recorded already, and I'm going to upload all the source material onto this one. I can upload these forms as well, the finished form, so that you can pull it apart if you want to and use it. There's not that much there, but as I say, keep it live in the EdExchange so we can build on and add videos or clarifications as needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day or evening or night or wherever you are. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks' time, everyone. Thank you so much, Lukas. You're a legend.